Kyle Austin, Mike Griffith here at Spartan Stadium after a 9-3 white team win in the spring game. Kind of a defensive struggle today, Mike, which you don't often see in a spring game. What stood out to you?
Yeah, well, Michigan State likes to blitz during the regular season, and they blitzed again today in the scrimmage. They made things really hard for the quarterbacks, I thought. When you've got a split squad like that, it's hard enough. There's only so many great offensive linemen that can protect, and so both quarterbacks under pressure all day today. There were some big plays, but you're right, Kyle. For the most part, the order of the day was defense.
Yeah. I thought running backs were going to be an interesting thing to watch because we haven't seen a lot of these two guys. Obviously, a lot of turnover at that position for Michigan State this year. What stood out to you between those two guys?
Well, I thought Gerald Holmes was as advertised. I thought he was very physical, very vertical north-south runner, really hits the holes hard. You can see where he's going to be effective in short yards and goal line situations. Madre London does have a little bit of wiggle, had to run a lot of north and south, though, because of the line situation we talked about. Didn't have gaping holes. Broke through on one run, went 50 yards and got caught from behind. I asked him about it. He said he was absolutely shocked that he was in the open after being in that big pileup and couldn't get his legs under him. He says that will never happen again. So we'll hold Madre London to that. But a 50-yard run was the longest play of the day. I thought Connor Cook had some great plays early. Threw a beautiful touch pass to DeAnthony Arnett for 24 yards. And then Tyler O'Connor had a deep pass to A.J. Troop. Those both happened on the first drive. After that, there really wasn't a whole lot.
Yeah, heard some other names for our standouts. I think Monte Nicholson, who's the guy we saw as a true freshman last year, he saw both sides of the ball. I thought he was pretty good defensively. And then you look at Shirley Calhoun. I mean, you mentioned before with the lines, obviously he's going against some guys that he's not regularly going against, but still 4 sacks I thought was a pretty good day for him.
Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. He was pretty much unblockable, and Lawrence Thomas as well.
Right.
Big LT. And we got to see the linemen. We talk about different things today. Mark Staten called a couple of plays for his offensive lineman, a throwback pass that Donovan Clark, a 317-pound guard, actually jumped up to catch and then turned it upfield, made 13 yards. And then on the very next play, they handed off to Jack Allen, another 300-pounder, and he goes into the end zone from 3.5 yards out, makes a really nice cut, finds a hole. And that was the only touchdown of the day, scored by an offensive lineman. So it said a lot about it. We saw LT come out of the backfield, Lawrence Thomas catch a swing pass, credit to Demetrius Cox for throwing himself in front of that 300-pounder and making the tackle. And we saw Shalik Calhoun line up at tight end and run a really good route, but the coverage on him was really tight. I think R.J. Williamson was all over him. So Shalik claims there was pass interference, but, that's Shalik. So, but there were some fun moments. I give Mark D'Antonio and those guys a lot of credit for having some fun with the scrimmage. And the crowd, Kyle, we didn't talk about that yet.
Yeah.
48,000. I know you're writing a story about that.
Yeah, it's a little short of their 50, but, Mark D'Antonio had no complaints afterwards. It puts them 7th as far as spring crowds this year, which might change a little bit given some games today. But I think overall they have to be happy. They would have liked to say 50, and frankly, they could have probably just said 50, and who's counting really? But they say 48. I think they're happy with that. I think Mark D'Antonio was happy with that. And I think the whole goal was to get them in that group, that top 10 of fan support. And I think that's what they accomplished today.
Well, not only did they get some support from the fans, but also a really big commitment from Justin Lane, the #1 wide receiver out of the state of Ohio. That follows up a commitment from Abdul Adams the night before, running back out of Washington, D.C. But this Justin Lane recruitment, I don't necessarily believe it's over because Ohio State wants this guy. He's from Cleveland. And then they got another guy, a linebacker you were talking about earlier. Was it Joe Baccia from Berea, Ohio?
Cleveland area, Ohio.
A 3-star guy that was committed to Western. So 3 commitments for the Spartans within 24 hours. And that's as of now. This day's not done. So I don't know when people are seeing this video, but I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan State had more than 6 total commitments by the start of next week.
All right. Well, that'll do it for today. Check MLive.com/Spartans for all the spring game coverage. Thanks.